Well, one thing that people are very, very annoyed about is potholes. Pothole breakdowns have hit a record high with nearly 6,000 call-outs over the substandard state of the roads. Well, the RSC received the highest number of quarterly call-outs between July and September since records began in 2006. Well, joining me now is the founder of Fair Fuel UK and the Reform Party's candidate for Mayor of London. That is Howard Cox. Howard, you're very welcome to the programme today. This just isn't getting any better, is it?
No, it's not, Peter. And before I just answer that, I'm just shocked by that film of those two people. You know,
I mean, it's sort of shocking, but not shocking, Howard.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'm up there at Armistice Day tomorrow in Parliament Square, and I'll be, you know, commemorating our fallen, our dead, and all the servicemen that have given us the right to free speech, etc. So I'm just shocked by that. But equally, as you say, not surprised.
There are some pretty clueless people out there.
Yes, very much so, and I think a lot of the clueless people sit in government regarding potholes.
Yeah, tell me your thoughts on potholes, because we pay such a huge amount. I mean, we're taxed at a higher rate of what the country makes, highest rate of what the country makes since World War II. We pay a lot in road tax, we pay a lot in fuel duty, as you know more than anybody else in this country, Howard, and yet that money is not going back into fixing the potholes. We're coming into the winter time. It's only going to get worse, isn't it?
Well, it's no money that has come from drivers who's been hypothecated for roads. Drivers contribute something like £1 billion a week, and only around about 18% goes back into road infrastructure. I'm not talking about repairs. That's everything to do with actually building new roads, you know, all the sorts of things that are necessary to get our roads and our people moving in our cars. The thing is, Peter, what we're seeing here is a long-term lack of a proper road user strategic plan. It's never been one. With our cycle of 4 to 5 years of parliaments, etc., we need a 20-year plan for roads right across. I understand there's the Transpennine roads is being put back next year, and that, you know, I just cannot believe the Tories have got, you know, sounding a death knell, a suicide note to actually recognising that 37 million drivers in this country, and they all vote.
They do all vote, and they all pay their road tax, and they all pay their fuel duty and all the rest of it. And I wonder if you think the government, maybe the Transport Department, has been focused in other ways. We've seen so much about HS2. There's a lot of problems on with bus fares, for example. They've been trying to keep bus fares down and so on. Is there just a sort of myopic focus on getting everybody on public transport, which is fine in a big city if the public transport is any good? I'm very lucky to live in London, and the public transport is pretty brilliant. But there's so many parts of the country where public transport is rubbish, and most people, most journeys every day are in a car. And I just think that the government forgets that.
Well, you're absolutely right. I think 80% of your viewers and listeners are outside of London, and they sit in horror that all the policies are being made by people in the Westminster bubble.
And the media as well, they're obsessed. They're obsessed with the trains as well. Look, there are train problems over the weekend. It's disgraceful that our veterans will not be able, some of them will not be able to get to the cenotaph for that reason. The trains are certainly something worth talking about, but the media is obsessed with them. Most journeys on public transport in this country are by bus, and most journeys, most of the time, are by car, and we're just forgetting the motorist.
You're absolutely right, and every one of those motorists want to breathe clean air. They all want clean fuel technology, but the first thing the Treasury does, and don't forget on Wednesday week, Peter, we've got Jeremy Hunt with his autumn statement, and the first thing they do in the Treasury is how much more can we get out of drivers?
Are you worried drivers are going to be squeezed in a week and a half?
Well, I don't think so. I think, you know, I'm working very closely with the Sun, as you know, and fuel duties, I think, are going to continue to be frozen for the 13th year running, and that's how long Fair Fuel UK has been going. And I've been reliably informed by senior cabinet members it's not going up. So that's great news. But there's all these other things, like for at the moment, in terms of why isn't pump watching process? Because there's still profiteering going on at the pumps. You get, you know, a Shell garage in one place charging X, and a Shell garage somewhere else charging X plus 15 pence. It just doesn't make any sense, and it hits people in the pocket. The pothole situation is very much down to the fact that local authorities are clueless in managing our roads, and they're also starved of funds centrally at the moment in time. So there is some sympathy for that at the moment, but we are in a third world cratered environment regarding our roads. I cannot believe how bad our roads I've been hit by, and I think those numbers from the RAC are understated because even
well, those are people who make a complaint. There'll be a lot of people who have had some sort of problem with their car because of a pothole who don't properly report it. I wonder what our viewers and listeners think about this. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. Tell us if you've had a pothole problem and what you've tried to do about it. Have you actually given the RAC notice of it? 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. Howard, how do our roads in the UK, how do they compare to the rest of Europe? Are they in a better place, a worse place? Are other motorists in Europe treated better than the British motorist?
Peter, you know the answer to that. It's a rhetorical question. I recently
drove... because they always are. They always are, Howard. They always have it better off.
I recently drove in Germany for several meetings. I went over there. Obviously, the Autobahn is fantastic. But even
I bet you had fun there, Howard. I bet you had fun on the Autobahn.
I did have a bit of fun. Yes, I did. I was driving an electric car, by the way.
Oh, okay.
So, before anyone attacked me. But what the point is, a lot of the meetings were in rural countryside, and the rural roads were immaculate. I honestly, they were immaculate. It's incredible. They're very well. You have white lines down the edges of the road so you can see in the dark. You don't, all those sorts of things. Everything was beautifully, and it was like riding on a cushion. It was beautiful most of the time. In this country, we are absolutely taken for granted over here. All they want is the money from motorists, and there's no, as I said to you, something like 18% of the money that comes from motorists every year, £50 billion of it, is not, it goes back into roads. The other 82% goes into various other things, like probably paying for benefits, etc.
So what's your message to Jeremy Hunt then? He can make a big impact here. He can help the motorists in a week and a half at that autumn statement. We don't think there'll necessarily be too many rabbits out of the hat, where he's probably saving them up for the budget in the spring. But what's the sort of number one thing you'd like him to do to make life just a bit easier for the motorists? Not to solve all the problems, not to necessarily fill in every single pothole, though they should be filled in. But what do you think is the number one thing that the motorists can be helped by in the autumn statement? I'm
probably going to say two number one things. I want him to surprise us and say, I'm going to cut fuel duty by 5 to 10 pence. And they want to lead the way in various things like AA and net zero. Why not lead the way in actually lower taxation for motorists? That's one. So it puts more money into consumers' pockets and helps transport costs, and it would lower inflation. It's a no-brainer. And the other one is actually to make sure they get on top of this profiteering in the fuel supply chain by introducing and implementing Pump Watch, which is backed by the Competitions and Market Authority back in July. I've recommended it to them, and I've been talking to a lot of ministers about this. They're all behind it. Why isn't it in action?
It's a very good point, and we'll continue to ask those questions. Howard Cox, who is founder of Fair Fuel UK, thank you very, very much indeed.